Good day, Pangasinan 2 teachers of MAPEH. Welcome to this series of virtual training on Division Online Training on the reproduction of third quarter instructional videos in music, arts, physical education, and health. But before the commencement of our training proper, we will begin from giving honor and glory to our Creator, followed by paying respect to our country with an audio-visual presentation.
A little boy of 13 was on his way to school. He heard a crowd of people laughing and he went to take a look. Thousands were listening to the stories of one man. He spoke with such wisdom, even the kids could understand. Hours passed so quickly, the day turned into night. Everyone was hungry, but there was no food in sight. The boy looked in his lunchbox at the little that he had. He wasn't sure what good it'd do. There were thousands to be fed, but he saw the twinkling eyes of Jesus, the kindness in his smile, and the boy cried out with the trust of a child. He said, "Take my 5 loaves and 2 fishes, do with it as you will. I surrender. Take my fears, my inhibitions, all my burdens, my ambitions. You can use it all to feed them all." I often think about that boy when I'm feeling small, and I worry that the work I do means nothing at all. But every single tear I cry is a diamond in his hands. And every door that slams in my face I will offer up in prayer. So I'll give you every breath that I have. Oh Lord, you can work miracles. All you need is my amen. So take my 5 loaves and 2 fishes, do with it as you will. I surrender. Take my fears, my inhibitions, all my burdens, my ambitions. You can use it all. I hope it's not too small. I trust in you. I trust in you. So take my 5 loaves and 2 fishes, do with it as you will. I surrender. Take my fears, my inhibitions, all my burdens, my ambitions. You can use it all. No gift is too small.
mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang mag-ibig, pero sa sinangalan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay hinagang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iibig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di magdidinig, luma ng araw ng walhagit pagsinta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang ligaya na pagkay mag-amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
The new realities stemming from the COVID-19 crisis underscore the importance of continual learning supported by investments in the remote on-demand digital tools for the modern workforce. Digital learning is any type of learning used as technology. It can happen across all curriculum areas. Online learning is now applied just to learn academics, but it also extends learning extracurricular activities for students as well. And now, to give us her welcome address, may we call on Dr. Lilibeth A. Daos, Education Program Supervisor in MAPEH.
Good day to everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Division Online Training Workshop on the reproduction of instructional videos in MAPEH grades 1 to 10. Join me in giving thanks to our school's Division Superintendent, Drs. Danilo C. Season, our two Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Arlene Casipit and Dr. Wilfredo Sindayen, our two Chiefs from the CID, Dr. Cornelio Araquino, and from SGOB, Dr. Rosalino T. Agpalo Jr. Thank you also for all the school heads from both elementary and secondary, to the district supervisors, and to the department heads of MAPEH. Special thanks and congratulations in advance to all the participants, trainers, resource speakers, and technical working group of this training. The objectives of this 4-day training are to understand the purposes and objectives of video lesson, to know the guidelines and the creation of video lesson, the technical structure of video lesson, to understand the copyright infringement, and to learn the different applications for video editing. At the end of this training, our participants are expected to produce quality outputs to be used by our students and teachers in the blended learning. Once again, enjoy your day, make use of this training, let's make ourselves productive, and let's keep in our minds that learning should be together and should be continuous even when we are apart.
At this time, here is the training matrix for our 2-day online training workshop on the reproduction of 4th quarter instructional video lessons in MAPEH from grades 1 to 10. We are so happy and elated to see you teachers as participants in this training and workshop. And we hope that after this training, all of us are equipped and ready to venture to our next modality in our present status in our school system. Starting on March 24, from 7:30 to 8 a.m., we are to log in via Google Meet. From 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., we will have the opening program, starting with a prayer, pambansang awit, and Pangasinan hymn, all through an audio-visual presentation. Subsequently, Dr. Lilibeth A. Daos will give her opening remarks and an orientation by yours truly. And from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30, we will have the training workshop proper. First, the video lessons, its purpose and objectives to be delivered by Ma'am Elaine Ocomen. Next is the guidelines in the video lessons by Ma'am Sheila Makayan, followed by the technical structure of video lesson to be delivered by Sir Denver Siguban, and the copyright issues to be given by Ma'am Hazel Mariano. From 9:30 a.m. to 12 and from 1 a.m. to 3 p.m., we have a simultaneous training. The speakers and the trainers will alternate among the different groups to present their topics. For Group A, PowerPoint, Group B, CapCut application or the mobile app, and Group C for computer software. For Group A, the speaker will be Sir Ramil Makahili. We also have an open forum from where the participants from Group A will be grades 1, 2, and 7. For Group B, we have the CapCut application, or for the mobile app, we have our speakers Sir Oliver D. Iglesias and Sir Dennis G. Dotimas, to be followed by an open forum. And from Group B, the participants shall be grades 3, 4, and 8. Moving on to Group C, the computer software group, the speakers will be Sir Mark Joseph D. Veloria and Sir Rondel Lagib, once again followed by an open forum. And the participants will be from grades 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, and 12. After which, from 3 to 3:30, we shall have the question and answer forum and to be followed by the closing program. For March 25, the activity shall start from 7:30 to 8 a.m. Still, we will log in via Google Meet. From 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., we'll have the online presentation of outputs by grades 1 to 6 MAPEH video developers. And from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., we'll have the online presentation of outputs by grades 7 to 12 MAPEH video developers. Our first speaker is a Principal 3 at Salaan Elementary School. She has a doctoral degree in educational management, which she earned from Baguio Central University. She was awarded Most Outstanding School Leader School-Based Assessment in the New Normal and consecutively 8th placer in Division Brigada Escuela in 2020 and 2021. Let's all welcome Ma'am Elaine Ocomen.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. What a beautiful day it is, and I'm so happy to be sharing it to all of you. My name is Elaine A. Ocomen. I've been a district MAPEH coordinator for almost 10 years. This pandemic taught us so many lessons in life, one of which is the making of video lesson. For today, I'm going to discuss the purposes and objectives of video lesson. As Albert Einstein used to say, once you stop learning, you start dying. Do you agree? That is why we are here today to learn about video lesson. The overall structure of my lesson are composed of 3 main points. First, we will define what is video lesson. Second, we will identify the purposes of using a video lesson. And lastly, we will identify the objectives of using a video lesson. Now, let us tackle the first main point. What is a video lesson? A video lesson is a video which presents educational material for a topic which is to be learned. The format of video lesson may vary. It might be a video of a teacher speaking to the camera, photographs, and text about the topic or some mixture of these. And our video lesson that will be done under MAPEH has its own structure. Now, let us identify the purposes of using video lesson. The following are the purposes of using video lessons for the learners. First, using video in delivering the lesson is memorable and comprehensive. Video-based learning easily attracts any learner. A combination of speech, text, and images makes it easier to get to the point much faster. This makes a room for more content and extra conversation all in less time. Second, video lessons are accessible. The beauty of video lesson is its accessibility. Learners may access the videos when and how they want to. Moreover, Learners can watch and rewatch the video lesson as many times as needed to grasp a topic. Third, using video lessons promote engagement. Video lessons can make learners connect faster to the lesson. Effective video lessons significantly improve the memory process by facilitating thinking in the manner of asking questions. Asking questions lead to a better research skills, collaboration, organizational skills, and problem solving. These are the top skills we all wanted to perfect for our learners. Learning through video sparks curiosity and promotes the development of critical thinking. The following are also purposes of video lesson for teachers. First, video lessons are teaching tools. Video lessons have been an important teaching tool for enhancing learning. Today, we are at the forefront of an even greater reliance on video lessons because of distance learning. Both teachers and learners are creatively leveraging video for learning. Second, video lessons build background knowledge on a topic or lesson. We know that learners learn best when they take in information via multiple modalities, through reading, drawing, listening to the teacher's oral explanations, and viewing visual media. Images and videos included in the video lessons support the learning of a new content, concepts, and ideas. Third, video lessons may promote positive learner-teacher relationship. Positive teacher-learner relationships help learners learn, especially during a time of stress or trauma. If you're teaching learners at a distance, it may seem harder to form those relationships. Video lessons give learners another option for connecting with you on their own time. Learners can use video lessons to connect with each other as well as with their parents. And our third main point is the objectives of using video lessons. I have identified three major objectives of using video lessons. First is to empower and give the parents full confidence in assisting their children. We as teachers are also aware, ever since the pandemic has begun, that parents are also experiencing some difficulties in guiding their children in answering their modules because of a lot of reasons or problems. Video lessons may guide the parents from confusion and help them gain confidence in assisting their children. Second is to help learners to fully understand the lessons in the module. As a teacher, this is our main goal and our main concern. And the third objective in using video lesson is to help teachers in explaining the lesson in the module. Ever since the pandemic has begun, teachers find it difficult to reach learners, especially when they did not fully understand their lessons in their modules or find difficulty in answering some activities. Video lessons may be of great help for teachers in solving this problem. When we say video lesson, the first thing that enters our mind is a brief explanation on a particular topic in a short time. Through video lessons, we will be able to make our work easier as a teacher, and the learner's learning will be fun and enjoyable. Now, we teachers will make one of those video lessons. Can you imagine how would our learners feel when they will watch their teachers in those video lessons? Always remember this, my dear teachers. You are making a difference in a child's life every day. With that, thank you so much and enjoy making a video lesson for our learners.
Our next speaker is a principal too in Alipangpang Elementary School. She both earned her master's and doctoral degree in Baguio Central University. She was an evaluator of learning resources that Quality Assured Regional Office initiated alternative instructional reference and also a validator of worksheets in MAPEH Grade 2. Please welcome Ma'am Sheila V. Makayan.
Our Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Danilo C. Sison. Our Assistant Schools Division Superintendents, Dr. Wilfredo Isindayen and Dr. Arlene Casipit. The CID Chief, Dr. Cornelio R. Aquino. SJOD Chief, Dr. Rosalino Agpalo. Our EPS in MAPEH, Dr. Lilibeth A. Daus. Our PSD says, School Head, Technical Working Group, and most importantly, our participants in the division training on MAPEH. A pleasant day to one and all. Today, I will discuss on the general guidelines in developing video lessons. General guideline number 1, intellectual property rights compliance. 1. The content of the script has no copyright violation. 2. The third-party content, non-original, copyrighted music, songs, sound effects, and text are properly attributed. 2. Learning competencies. The topic of the script is aligned with the specific learning competencies, objectives of the learning area, and grade level for which it is intended. Next is instructional design and presentation and organization. The content of the video, TV lesson is suitable to the learner's level of development. The content of the video or TV lesson record is logically presented and organized. Number 3, the video or TV lesson record discusses one topic or one lesson only. The content of the video, TV recording provides and communicates clear goals. The content and activities within the video, TV record facilitates achievement of objectives. Number 6, the content is compliant to the social content guidelines. 7, the content develops learners' 21st century and or higher order thinking skills. Number 8, the content develops learners' 21st century and or higher order thinking skills. 9, the content enhances the development of any desirable values and traits. And 10, the content allows for review, comparison, and integration with the previous lesson.
Still on instructional design and presentation and organization, motivational strategies are provided. Content is designed using strategies to help pupils learn the information and skills that are in focus. Content provides opportunity for practice and deepening skills or competency. Fourth general guideline, assessment. The script employs useful measures and information that help the teacher evaluate learners' progress in mastering the target competencies. 4.2. The script provides variety of assessment approaches and activities to ensure active engagement of the learners. Assessments have clear instructions to serve as guide on how this will be used. Assessments and activities are aligned with the specific objectives and content. Accuracy and timeliness of information. The script does not contain any conceptual errors. 2. The script does not contain any factual errors. 3. The script does not contain any grammatical errors. 4. The script does not contain computational errors. 5. The script does not contain any obsolete information. And lastly, the script does not contain any typographical, technical, and other type of errors. Next guideline is language. The language used is informal and conversational. The vocabulary level and words are within the level of learners' experience and understanding. The sentences and paragraph structures are brief, simple, varied, and appropriate to the target learners. Number 4, there is logical and smooth flow of ideas within a topic or lesson. Transition devices or words are properly provided. 6. Instructions, exercises, questions, and activities are understandable and clear to the target learner. General guideline number 7 is technical design, and there are 12 steps to work on. 1. The length of the video lesson is within the prescribed running time. 2. The types of shots used are appropriate and relevant to the story. 3. The video lesson is complete in elements or parts. Moving on to the next slide. Audio components, example, narration, dialogue, music, and sound effects are appropriate and effective for educational purposes. Visual components, for example, animations, images, and text are appropriate and effective for educational purposes. Number 6, visual and audio components engage the interests of the target learners and enhance the content of the script. Integration music and sound effects are coherently and smoothly applied. 8. Rules on acronyms, numbers, figures, and fractions are accurately and properly observed. 9. The camera angles, movements are relevant and useful to the content. Number 10. There is variety and consistent use of camera angles or movements. Volume and sound quality are smooth and well integrated. And 12. Pacing is effective and appropriate to instructional purposes. On the next slide deck is the criterion reference. Factor 1 or general guideline number 1. All items must be marked yes to indicate compliance. 2. All items must be marked yes to indicate compliance. Number 3, guideline, at least 3 criterion items must be marked yes to indicate compliance to this factor. 4th general guideline, at least 3 criterion items must be marked yes to indicate compliance. Number 5, at least 4 criterion items must be marked yes to indicate compliance. 6, at least 5 criterion items must be marked yes to indicate compliance. And guideline number 7, at least 2 criterion items must be marked yes to indicate compliance. Tips in developing video lessons. Materials and equipment needed for the video. Laptop, audio or voice recorder, video editor, lightings, high-resolution webcam or digital camera, Microsoft PowerPoint, and script and lesson plan. Other tips in developing video lessons will be flashed on the screen. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Our next speaker is a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Physical Education, Health, Music, and Arts at Benguet State University. He is currently a junior high school teacher 1 in Bautista National High School. Please welcome Sir Denver L. Seguban.
The COVID-19 pandemic refrained us from having face-to-face classes. The Department of Education offered a wide range of delivering learning, which includes modular distance learning, online distance learning, and TV radio-based learning, including video lessons, as stated in DepEd Order No. 12 Series of 2020. This school year, 2021-2022, the DepEd encouraged the regions, school division offices to implement blended learning to all the schools they are covering. Video lesson is one of the features of blended learning that increases student engagement, which in turn helps in achieving the lesson. Video lessons offer the flexibility to pause, rewind, or skip throughout the video to review on particular areas. Before you start filming your video lessons, you must plan the content and write your script. Then, if you indulge yourself in filming your lesson, then you must know first the technical structure of a video lesson. I am Denver L. Seguban of Bautista National High School, your discussant on the technical structure of a video lesson. And here is the structure of a video lesson. Introduction, most essential learning competency or MELC, objectives, motivation and or review, presentation of the lesson, discussion, activity, appreciation, reflection, generalization, evaluation, assessment, assignment, agreement, closing statement, references, acknowledgement. It is very important for you to master the structure of a video lesson to save time, effort, and energy. According to the evaluation tool for video lesson script of Department of Education Regional Office, the length of a video lesson is a minimum of 20 minutes and has a maximum time of 25 minutes and another 10 minutes for the evaluation and assignment.
Magandang araw mga bata! Kumusta kayo? Ako ay nagagalak dahil kayo ay aking makakasama sa pagtuklas ng mga bagong kaalaman sa mundo ng sining. Ako si Teacher Ellen mula sa Pinilapil Elementary School. Halina't makinig, manood at matuto dahil sa Arts 5, kayo ang bida!
Introduction is the first part of a video lesson. In this segment, you need to have a self-introduction. Conduct this by showing up on the screen so that your learners recognize you as their guide in the lesson. Your introduction must be creative and interesting to get the attention of your learners to watch the entire video. You need to set the tone for the entire video. It must be engaging and well-organized. State the subject, quarter, and grade level accordingly.
Module 2. Ang ating aralin ngayon ay nababatay sa most essential learning competency na explains that artists have different art styles in painting landscapes or significant places in their respective provinces.
In this segment, whether your medium of instruction is Filipino, Iloco, and Pangasinan, take note that the name of the subject and the most essential learning competency or MELC need not to be translated. Showing yourself on the screen is optional. The main highlight is to introduce the MELC of the lesson. But before showing the MELC, introduce the subject, quarter, and the module number accordingly. Be careful of your pronunciation of words, especially if your medium of instruction is English.
Layunin: maipapahayag ang mga idea o damdamin sa pagpipinta ng isang visual art sa pamamagitan ng iba't ibang media at mga estilo.
In this part, your aim is to provide the objectives of your lesson on the screen. Remember to follow the SMART objective framework: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. Also, your objectives must hit 3 domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor.
Bago tayo dumako sa ating bagong aralin, nais ko munang balikan natin ang mga kamanghamanghang tanawin maging ang mga makasaysayang lugar na matatagpuan sa Pilipinas. Ang mga larawang aking ipapakita ay ilan lamang sa mga makasaysayang lugar na may pagmamalaki nating mga Pilipino. Pangalanan ng mga ito, meron lamang kayong 5 segundo bawat larawan. Handa na ba kayo?
Unang larawan. Isa ito sa 4 na simbahang barok sa Pilipinas na napabilang sa talaan ng Pamanang Pandaigdig ng UNESCO noong 1993. Mahuhulaan ba ninyo kung anong lugar ito? Tama! Ito ang Paway Church ng Ilocos Norte. Pangalawang larawan. Ang kamanghamanghang tanawin na nagpapatunay ng kagalingan ng mga tao sa Cordillera. Magaling! Yan nga ang rice terraces. Ikatlong larawan. Saan kaya matatagpuan ang lugar na ito? Tama ang iyong sagot. Sa Batanes nga. Sino mang dayuhan ang dumalaw dito, tiyak kong mamamangha. Ang ika-4 na larawang aking ipapakita ay isa sa 300 mga unit na kilala sa Pilipinas bilang pangturistang atraksyon. Tumpak, Callao Cave na matatagpuan sa bayan ng Peña Blanca sa lalawigan ng Cagayan. Ang panglimang larawan ay tiyak kong alam nyo na dahil isa itong kilalang atraksyon sa lalawigan ng Bohol. Magaling! Chocolate Hills nga mga bata! At dahil dyan, binabati ko kayo. Tunay ngang naunawaan ninyo ang inyong nakaraang aralin.
Motivation in education is very key to the teachers. If students are not motivated, it will feed back to you as a teacher. When presenting your motivation, make sure to be creative and connected to the topic. Commonly, elementary teachers use pictures or games, while teachers in the secondary level throws questions. In doing this, set a timer depending on the activity to allow the viewers to have time to think. The presenter from the video used guessing the picture as her activity. An activity like this should allot 5 seconds timer. It is applicable to all activities like identification, multiple choice, true or false, and the likes. To conduct this activity, show first the item, then 5-second timer. After that, show the correct answer. Repeat these steps until the last item. The duration of this segment preferably should last for 5 minutes. Review in education is used when your current lesson is still connected from your previous lesson. One of the reasons why some presenter includes review in their video is for the viewers to recall the previous lesson. Just like motivation, you can conduct an activity by showing first the item, then 5-second timer, and after that, show the correct answer. Repeat these steps until the last item.
Pagmasdan ang mga larawan, mga bata. Ano ang pagkakaiba ng unang larawan sa ikalawang larawan? Alam niyo ba na ang mga tanyag na pintor ay may kanya-kanyang estilo sa pagpipinta? Ito ang nagiging tatak nila o pagkakakilanlan ng kanilang obra.
In this part, the presenter must show up on the screen and tell the connection of the motivation or review to establish the purpose of the new lesson.
Ang pagpipinta ay isang visual art kung saan ang mga idea at mga damdamin ay ipinapahayag sa pamamagitan ng iba't ibang media at mga estilo. Sa Pilipinas, may mga mahuhusay at malikhaing pintor na ang mga gawa ay maaari makipagpaligsahan sa mga pintor sa ibang bansa. Sila rin ang tumutulong sa pagpapaunlad ng sining at kulturang Pilipino. Tunay ngang kahanga-hanga ang kanilang mga obra. Ang tawag sa mga likhang sining na nagpapakita ng likas na tanawin ay landscape painting. Maaaring ito ay pinta ng bundok, puno, palayan, tabing ilog, tabing dagat at iba pa.
Sa paggawa ng landscape painting, maaari tayong gumamit ng iba't ibang estilo sa pagpipinta. Narito ang ilan sa mga halimbawa.
Realismo. Ang estilo ng sining na itinuturing ng karamihan sa mga tao bilang tunay na sining, kung saan ang paksa ng pagpipinta ay mukhang napakatulad ng tunay na bagay sa halip ng pagiging abstract. Impressionismo. Ang mga pintor na gumagamit dito ay hinahangad na makuha ang liwanag, hindi sa pamamagitan ng detalye ng pagiging totoo, ngunit may kilos at ilusyon. Abstract. Ang pagpipinta na ito ay naghahanap para sa isang panloob na kakayahan ng bagay na kanyang lilikhain, upang ang pagpipinta ay mas natatangi. Hindi ito nagpapakita ng hugis na madalas nating makatagpo sa pang-araw-araw na buhay. Kubismo. Isang uri ng estilo sa pagpipinta na gumagamit ng mga hugis na geometrical, partikular na mga hugis na kubo. Surrealismo. Isang panaginip at katotohanan, isang tunay na visual na sining na sumasalamin sa pinakapambihirang mga saloobin ng artist. Ang mga tanyag na pintor ay may kanya-kanyang estilo kung paano nila bibigyan ng buhay ang larawan sa kanilang obra. Gumagamit sila ng iba't ibang estilo upang magkaroon ng sariling pagkakakilanlan sa kanilang mga iginuhit o ipininta. Nalalaman ang iba't ibang estilong ginamit ng mga tanyag na pintor sa mga larawan ng kanilang obra. Muli nating silipin ang iba't ibang halimbawa ng mga estilo sa pagpipinta. Realismo. Impressionismo. Abstract. Kubismo. Surrealismo.
this segment, the teacher now presents the lesson to the viewers. The role of the teacher is to explain, model, demonstrate, and illustrate the concepts, ideas, and skills to the students. Make sure that there is still an interaction between the teacher and the student, even though the presenter is on the screen, in order to help them understand and master the new information.
Matapos nating malaman ang iba't ibang estilo sa pagpipinta, subukin naman natin ang inyong kaalaman sa ating aralin. Narito ang unang gawaing aking inihanda. Halika, sagutan natin!
Gawain 1. Panuto. Isulat sa loob ng kahon ang estilo ng pagpipinta na ginamit sa pagguhit ng bawat larawan. Unang larawan. Ang sagot mo ba ay surrealismo? Tama ka! Pangalawang larawan. Tama ba ang iyong sagot? Impressionismo? Magaling! Ikatlong larawan. Ang tamang sagot ay abstract. Mahusay ka. Ika-4 na larawan. Tumpak. Realismo ang sagot. Ika-5 larawan. Ang tamang sagot ay kubismo.
Mahusay mga bata! Ngayon, dumako naman tayo sa ikalawang gawain.
Gawain 2. Panuto. Isulat ang mga nawawalang titik upang mabuo ang iba't ibang estilo ng pagpipinta. Meron lamang kayong 30 segundo sa gawain ito. Ang nakalaang oras ay tapos na. Tingnan natin mga bata kung tama ang iyong mga sagot. Unang bilang. Abstract. Pangalawang bilang. Realismo. Pangatlong bilang. Kubismo. Pang-4 na bilang. Surrealismo. Pang-5 bilang. Impressionismo.
Activities were done to check whether the students understood the lesson or not. The rules in conducting activities are the same with the motivation review part of the video lesson. A 10-item question should only be provided to your activity. Show first the item, then 5-second timer. After that, show the correct answer. Repeat these steps until the last item. Unlike identification, multiple choice, true or false type of activity, there are activities that needs more time to answer. Therefore, after flashing the question, instruct the viewers to pause the video, then show the answer.
bata, paano nyo maipapahayag ang inyong damdamin sa pagpipinta? Anong estilo ang nais nyong tularan? Lagi nating isaisip na may kanya-kanya at iba't ibang estilo ang mga mangguguhit sa pagpipinta upang maipakita ang kanilang pagkakakilanlan sa larangan ng pagguhit. Ito rin ang nagbibigay buhay sa kanilang mga ipinintang larawan upang maging katangtanging obra. Ngayon mga bata, ano-ano ulit ang maaari nating gamiting estilo sa paggawa ng inyong landscape painting? Tama! Maaari nating gamitin ang mga sumusunod na estilo.
Realismo, Impressionismo, Abstract, Kubismo, Surrealismo.
Your aim is to give the summary of the lesson. To make your generalization more interactive, you can throw questions to your viewers. Next, give a 5-second timer. Then praise the students assuming that they got the correct answer by saying, "Good job," "Excellent." After that, give them the answer.
Binabati ko kayo mga bata sa mahusay niyong pagsagot sa ating mga gawain. At para sa ating pangkalahatang pagsubok sa araling ito, nais kong ihanda ninyo ang inyong mga sagutang papel at sagutan ang mga katanungang aking inihanda.
Pangkalahatang pagsubok A. Paano to? Isulat ang katotohanan kung ang pangusap ay nagsasaad ng katotohanan. Di katotohanan naman kung hindi. Isulat ang tamang sagot sa patlang bago ang bilang. Unang pangusap. Ang mga tanyag na pintor ay may iba't ibang estilo sa pagpipinta upang magkaroon sila ng sariling pagkakakilanlan. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ikalawang pangusap. Ang tawag sa mga likhang sining na nagpapakita ng likas na tanawin ay landscape painting. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ikatlong pangungusap. Ang pagpipinta ay isang visual art kung saan ang mga idea at mga damdamin ay ipinapahayag sa pamamagitan ng iba't ibang media at mga estilo. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ikaapat na pangungusap. Sa Pilipinas, may mga mahuhusay at malikhaing pintor na ang mga gawa ay maaaring makipagpaligsahan sa mga pintor sa ibang bansa. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ikalimang pangungusap. Ang mga pintor ay hindi tumutulong sa pagpapaunlad ng sining at kulturang Pilipino sa pamamagitan ng kanilang obra. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ika-anim na pangungusap. Ang abstract ay hindi nagpapakita ng hugis na madalas nating makatagpo sa pang-araw-araw na buhay. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ikapitong pangungusap. Panaginip at katotohanan ang nakapaloob sa surrealismo. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ikawalong pangungusap. Ang impressionismo ay isang uri ng estilo sa pagpipinta na gumagamit ng mga hugis geometrikal, partikular na ang mga hugis na kubo. Katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ika-9 na pangungusap. Ang realismo ay sinasabing tunay na sining, katotohanan o di katotohanan. Ika-10 at huling pangusap. Ang kubismo ay nagpapakita ng kilos at ilusyon, katotohanan o di katotohanan. Narito ang mga tamang sagot. Karagdagang pagsubok B. Panuto. Hanapin sa hanay B kung anong uri ng estilo ang nasa hanay A. Isulat ang sagot sa patlang bago ang bilang. Ito ang mga tamang sagot. Ilagay ang inyong mga sagutang papel sa envelope at ipasa sa guro para sa pagwawasto.
In this segment, the presenter will assess whether the student have mastered the lesson or not. Make sure the assessment is aligned to HOTS or higher order thinking skills to develop and enhance the thinking of the students. HOTS includes synthesizing, analyzing, reasoning, comprehending, application, and evaluation. For assessments like identification, enumeration, multiple choice, modified true or false, limit it to a 10-item question. To conduct the assessment, show first the item, then a 5-second timer. Repeat these steps until the last item, and after that, show the correct answer. For assessments that requires rubric, the presenter must explain the rubric to the viewers while flashing the rubric on the screen.
Tunay niyang kasaya-siya ang inyong pinamalas sa pagsagot sa ating mga pagsubok. At bilang pagtatapos, narito ang inyong karagdagang gawain.
Karagdagang gawain. Gumuhit ng isang tanawin, lugar na iyong napuntahan o gustong puntahan. Maaring ito ay nasa malapit o nasa ibang bansa. Gumamit ng watercolor bilang gamit paglikha. Narito ang sukatan ng pagwawasto para sa inyong karagdagang gawain.
Provide your viewers enrichment activities based on the previous assessments given during the entire lesson. Again, for activities that requires rubric, the presenter must explain the rubric to the viewers while flashing the rubric on the screen.
Dito na nagtatapos ang ating aralin mga bata. Naway, naisapuso ninyo ang ating aralin ngayong araw. Muli, ako si Teacher Ellen na nagsasabing ang makulay na buhay ay lalong magniningning sa asignaturang sining. Hanggang sa muli, paalam!
Statement is the time where you end your video lesson. Since you showed up during the introduction part, it is also important to appear on your closing statement. To make this part more creative, you can give a saying or encouraging words or phrases to your learners before saying goodbye. This will encourage your learners to be more motivated in studying. Don't forget to flash your name on the screen for them to remember you as their guide to the lesson. There are guidelines on the proper way of citing your references. Since we are in the field of education, we use the APA citation style, American Psychological Association. Here are some of the formats on how you cite a material. Include only the references that you used, just like what the presenter showed on the screen. She only showed references that she got on books and online, such as the images, videos, music to avoid copyright violations. And for the acknowledgement, state the names of the people who helped during the production of your video lesson and the places where the production was held. A friendly reminder, always plan carefully about when to show up on the screen or to the voiceover in the video lesson. Now that you've learned a lot from this discussion, you are fully equipped and ready to develop your own video lesson. Thank you for your time and effort.
To talk over about the copyright issues, we have a Principal 1 from Castuso Integrated School. She finished her degree in Doctor of Philosophy, major in Educational Management at Pan Pacific University, North Philippines in 2015. She was awarded with NACES 2020 Outstanding Cultural Educator, Presidential Chief Girl Scout Producer, Distinction Award for Culture and Arts, and also a Division Outstanding Employee in 2015, and a Model Teacher in 2017. Let us all meet Ma'am Hazel O. Mariano.
Good day, everyone. I am Hazel O. Mariano from Castuso Integrated School of Lawak District, and I'm tasked to discuss to you some of the important concepts on copyright matters that will provide you guidelines on how to avoid infringing copyright law as you make a creative and meaningful video lesson for the learners of Pangasinan Division 2. The Philippine law for copyright infringement is the Republic Act No. 8293, also known as the Philippine Copyright Law, which was based from the Copyright Act of 1976 of the United States. But we will be talking through the general concepts of these copyright matters to protect ourselves from any monetary penalties as we learn to respect and value the rights of the authors of every intellectual work that we desire to adapt to make our lesson more interesting and effective. So what is copyright? Copyright refers to a collection of all rights enjoyed by the owner of an artistic or literary work. Copyright also provides legal protection for original creative works, including but not limited to poetry, movies, video games, videos, plays, paintings, sheet music, recorded music performances, novels, software code, sculptures, photographs, choreography, and even architectural design. In other words, any original intellectual creation in the literary and artistic domain are copyrightable. And take note that copyrightable works are protected from the moment of their creation. In the Philippines, copyright protection for artistic, literary, and derivative works lasts during the lifetime of the author plus 50 years after the author's death. This term of protection also applies to posthumous works or works after the death of the author. In the case of joint authorship, the economic rights shall be protected during the lifetime of the last surviving author plus 50 years after such author's death. In case of anonymous or pseudonymous works or an intellectual work created by a mysterious author, copyright protection shall last for 50 years from the date on which the work was first lawfully published. If the work was not published, it shall be protected for 50 years counted from the creation of the work. Now, what are the rights of copyright holder? So these are the exclusive legal rights of an originator or a copyright holder. First, public display of performance of work. The author has the sole authority to display the original or a copy of the work. Reproduce the entire work or parts of it. The author has the sole authority in the reproduction of the work or substantial portion of the work. And distribute copies of the work. The first public distribution of the original and each copy of the work by sale or other forms of transfer of ownership is of the consent of the author. Derived works such as translations or dramatizations. So the dramatization, translation, even adaptation, abridgment, arrangement, or other transformation of the work is also in the authority of the originator. Hence, anyone who wishes to copy or adapt the work in these ways will have to ask permission or acknowledge the author or some who has the rights through the author. Now, what are these derivative works? Derivative works are also protected as new works, provided that it does not affect the existing copyright on original works. Example, dramatizations, translations, adaptations, abridgment, arrangements, and other alterations of literary music work, collections of literary, scholarly, or artistic works, and compilations of data and other materials which are original by reason of the selection or coordination or arrangement of their contents. Meaning, a derivative work should only become a second or a separate independent form from the original work. Thus, it is also protected by copyright. Now, do you consider the video lesson that you are going to make as a derivative work? The answer is yes. How about the question, do you consider yourself as the owner of the video lesson that you're going to make as a derivative work? The answer is no. Employee is the owner if the work created is not part of employee's regular duties, even if he uses the time, facilities, and materials of the employer. Employer is the owner if the work created is the result of the performance of employees' regularly assigned duties unless otherwise agreed upon. Since you will create a video lesson as part of your duties as educators to respond to the challenges brought by this COVID-19 pandemic, in the field of education, you are not the owner of the video lesson that you are going to make. It owns by our employer, which is the DepEd Pangasinan 2 Division. Hence, all rights are reserved to our agency. So what are the copyright materials that copyright protection does not cover? This includes idea, procedure, system, method or operation, concept, principle, discovery, or mere data as such, even if they are expressed, explained, illustrated, or embodied in a work, news of the day, and other miscellaneous facts having the character of mere items of press information, official texts of a legislative, administrative, or legal nature, as well as any official translation thereof, work of the Philippine government, unless there was a prior approval by the appropriate government agency, and statutes, rules, and regulations, and speeches, even lectures, sermons, addresses, and dissertations pronounced, read, or rendered in court of justice before administrative agencies, in deliberative assemblies, and in meetings of public character. What constitutes copyright infringement? First, selling or letting for hire or by the way of trade, offering or exposing for sale or hire the article or the material, distributing the article or the material for the purpose of trade or for any other purpose to an extent that will prejudice the rights of the copyright owner in the work, or can be used in trade exhibit of the material in public. Now, what are the penalties provided by Philippine law for copyright infringement? Under the Philippine law, copyright infringement is punishable by the following: imprisonment of between 1 to 3 years and a fine of between 50,000 to 150,000 pesos for the first offense. For the second offense, imprisonment of 3 years and 1 day to 6 years plus a fine of between 150,000 to 500,000 pesos, and imprisonment of 6 years and 1 day to 9 years plus a fine ranging from 500,000 to 1.5 million pesos for the third and subsequent offenses. But don't worry, because there are ways in which we educators can avoid these penalties. We have the so-called fair use. Fair use allows copyrighted materials to be used under certain guidelines without the copyright holder's permission for the purposes such as news reporting, teaching, research, criticism, and parody. So news reporting, teaching, researches, criticism, parody are really intended for public information. But there are always limitations in the use of copyrighted materials in these aspects. Case-to-case basis will always be the rule. Fair use is a copyright concept for educators who use copyrighted works for educational purposes. The fair use doctrine explicitly permits the teachers to use copyrighted materials even without asking permission for the copyright holders. But copyright and fair use laws are nuanced, and just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you're always in the safe zone. Then, you have to educate yourself on the copyright law, and there are 4 standards for determination of the fair use exemption. So therefore, educating yourself on the substance of the issue is also important, because as a teacher, you model proper use for your students so that they can protect themselves too. So teachers and most schools are therefore protected fairly and broadly, because fair use doctrine allows us to make use of films, articles, and other copyrighted materials from sources even without asking permission from the authors. But then again, we have to be responsible users of these copyrighted materials. Courts consider 4 factors in determining whether a fair use is considered. So these are the 4 factors. First, purpose and character of use. Does the new work transform the original work or offer something beyond the original? The answer is copyrighted works that are altered significantly are more likely to be considered fair use. We have to avoid adapting the entire work or majority of the craft. An adaptation to a portion of it is allowed and legal. Is the use for non-profit or educational purpose? Copyrighted works used for non-profit or educational purposes are more likely to be considered fair use. That is the main point actually of the fair use doctrine. Amount of work to be used. Is the amount of the original work used reasonable? The smaller the percentage of the work used, the more likely it is to qualify as fair use. Is the section of the original work used the most important part of the work? The less significant the portion of the work that you use, the more likely it is to be considered as fair use. As I said, an adaptation to a portion of it is allowed and legal. Another factor to consider is the nature of the work. Is a copyrighted work published or unpublished? Published works are more likely to be considered fair use because published works were really made available for public, but still in certain limitations. While unpublished works are those which have not been distributed in any manner. Thus, they are eligible for protection. Is the original work out of print? Out of print works are more likely to be considered fair use if it will be used for educational, creative work, and research purposes. Yes, it is true that copying the entire book would normally exceed the bounds of fair use. However, since the book is out of print and no longer available from any sources, the copying is acceptable, for it will have no impact on the market because the book is no longer available from any other sources. Is the copyrighted work factual or creative? Factual works are more likely to be considered fair use because, generally speaking, facts cannot receive any copyright protection. As to facts about the natural world, the current and past issues may be discovered by any one of us, and the act of discovery is not an act of authorship. While creative work, according to copyright law, is considered as the original creative expression of an author per se. Effect of any use on the market for the work. Does the new work appeal to the same audience as the original work? Copyrighted works that are used for any other purposes or designed to appeal to a different audience are more likely to be considered fair use. But you have to inform the audience that changes were made from the original work. This time, I'm going to cite some situations where fair use can be applied for educators. So the situation is showing a videotape for classroom instruction. The scenario, a teacher wishes to show a copyrighted motion picture to her class for instructional purposes. Is it a fair use? Yes. Since it is for classroom instruction and no payment is charged to the learners, not unless you collected an admission fee from them, that is not a fair use because you made a profit out of that copyrighted material. Copying a videotape for classroom instruction. The scenario is a teacher makes a copy of the videotape described in scenario 1 for a colleague to show in her class at the same time. Is it a fair use? The answer is no, because you can have a copy of the reproduced material for personal use only, but sharing and lending it with anyone is not a fair use. But make sure that the way you copy the material is legal. The teacher may lend her personal copy of the videotape to a colleague for this purpose also, but not to have another copy of the videotape for another class. How about in the aspect of public domain materials? The scenario is a teacher copies a Shakespearean play from a copyrighted anthology. Is it a fair use? Yes, it is a fair use because the play is in public domain and not subject to copyright protection. The works of William Shakespeare are examples of public domain because nobody holds a copyright of this. And when we talk through the term public domain, this refers to creative materials that are not protected by intellectual property laws. And the public owns this not by any author nor artist. Therefore, if the material is in public domain, anyone can use it even without obtaining permission, and it is completely free for anyone to use in any way. But there's a big but there that no one can ever own it. Now, how will you say that the material is in public domain? First, a material enters the public domain either because the term of the copyrighted expired, the works was never covered by copyright, or the copyright owner deliberately places it in the public domain known as dedication. Now, if you see words such as this work is dedicated to the public domain, then it is free for use. Works published are protected for the lifetime of the author or co-author, plus 50 years in the Philippines after his or her death, unless it is renewed by the successor or assignee.
In US copyright law, they have extended it in 70 years. In general, anything published beyond 50 years after the death of the author or co-author in the Philippine government law and beyond 70 years for US copyright law are in public domain. Unless, again, it is renewed by the successor or assignee. Another is for classroom presentation. The scenario is a teacher or student prepares and gives a presentation that displays photographs. Permission was not obtained to use the photographs. Is it a fair use? The answer is yes. The copyright fair use provision explicitly provides classroom use of copyrighted material. Educators and students may perform and display their own educational projects or presentations for instruction, but it should be for the use of the class only. Videotaping of classroom presentation. Scenario: what if the teacher's or student's presentation explained in scenario 4 is videotape? Of course, is this a fair use? Yes. The use would be considered fair use if the videotape is used for educational purposes, such as student review, or if the videotape is for instruction. How about making changes to photographs? So the scenario is, what if the student or teacher were to change the attributes of the pictures discussed in the previous scenario? Is it a fair use? Yes. This would be considered fair use for education, but the teacher or student must inform the audience that the changes were made to the photographer's copyrighted work. How about the use of copyrighted music? A teacher or student creates a presentation and incorporates copyrighted music into the background. Assume that permission was not obtained to use the music for the presentation. Can the music be included in the teacher's or student's presentation? The answer is yes. This is fair use if instruction is occurring or it is used for the teaching and learning process. Use of music in videotape classroom presentation. What if the teacher's or student's presentation described in the previous scenario is being videotaped? Is it a fair use? Yes. This is a fair use if instruction also is occurring or it is used for the teaching and learning process. In the aspect of remote access for searchable database via the internet, a faculty member of, for instance, of MISSC creates a searchable database of copyrighted materials. The database is used as part of the distance learning instruction and it is available on the school's web server. Students enrolled in the subject can access the course materials from home and other areas that are not traditional classrooms. Access to the database is controlled and available only to students enrolled in the class. The teacher did not obtain permission to use the copyrighted materials. Is it a fair use? Yes. So long as the materials are being accessed for educational instruction and access remains controlled to avoid displaying and sharing to the public. These guidelines allow educators under most circumstances to copy a single chapter from a book, an excerpt from a work that combines language and illustration such as a children's book not exceeding 2 pages or 10% of the work, whichever is less, a poem of 240 words or less or up to 240 words of a longer poem, an article, short story or essay of 2,500 words or less, or excerpts of up to 1,000 words or 10% of a longer work, whichever is less, or a single chart, graphs, diagram, drawing, cartoon, or picture from a book, periodical, or newspaper. Therefore, your guiding principle is copyright-protected works should not be copied entirely. What is allowable is a small portion only of the entire work. The guidelines do not allow the use of the following: make multiple copies of different works as a substitute for the purchase of books or periodicals, use copyrighted work for commercial purposes, and use copyrighted work without attributing the author. What is considered a small portion? Let's focus on multimedia since your craft is on video lesson. Here are some of the guidelines for using multimedia. When we talk about multimedia works, these are created by combining copyrighted media elements such as motion media, music, other sounds, graphics, and text. It is recommended that you use only small portions of other people's works. Motion media, or the application of moving text, graphics, footage, or videos, up to 10% or 3 minutes, whichever is less. For the text, up to 10% or 1,000 words, whichever is less. Music, up to 10% of an individual copyrighted musical composition or up to 10% of a copyrighted musical composition embodied on a sound recording. However, no more than 30 seconds may be used without gaining permission from the copyright owner or licensing collective. For illustration and photos, under the guidelines, a photograph or illustration may be used in its entirety, but no more than 5 images by one artist or photographer may be incorporated into any one multimedia program. From a published collective work, not more than 10% or 15 images, whichever is less, may be used. The guidelines allow you to use multimedia without permission of lawfully acquired copyrighted works. You may incorporate portions of copyrighted works when creating your own multimedia projects for educational or instructional purposes, not for commercial. Students may incorporate portions of copyrighted materials for a project in a specific subject area, and students may display their own projects, use them in their portfolio, use for project, for a job interview, and as a supporting material in an application for school. Teachers may also use the copyrighted materials for their projects, for class assignments, curriculum materials, remote instruction, for conferences, presentations, or workshops, or for their professional portfolio and development as well. So there are many ways in which you can use the copyright works for multimedia, but it is a must that you give attribution to the original source of all copyrighted material that you use. In short, always give due credits to the copyright holders. For instance, you will include a motion picture to your lesson, place a copyright notice on the opening screen of the multimedia program, and accompanying print material that certain materials are included under the Fair Use Exemption copyright law and are restricted from further use. Now, here are some of the tips to protect yourself from copyright infringement. Given how subtle copyright and fair use are and the complexities of digital use and sharing, these tips can surely give you ideas and guide you to keep you in the safe aisle. First, limit your exposure. How are you going to do this? Use a password-protected space like Google Classroom or any learning management system to share published materials with your students. Instead of using your class webpage, by that way, you are sharing to the students in your class only. And always take note of the date works are published. In the Philippines, as I said, the moment it was published, copyright took effect already, and it will last till the author's lifetime plus 50 years upon his or her death or surviving co-author. For U.S. sources between 1923 and 1978, that did not contain a valid copyright notice. Works authored by government employees like DepEd learning resources, including resources from DepEd Commons, because these are free of use and intentionally created for learners and educators. works that the copyright owner has freely granted to the public domain, because materials in public domain are free for the use of public. Don't forget Wikipedia, because it's the father of Creative Commons sites. It is of free content that anyone can edit, use, modify, and distribute, because permission has been granted to anyone of anywhere by the authors and contributors, but with certain restrictions also. For instance, the text and some images are also copyright protected by the authors. That's why you have to include the backlink, and acknowledgement of the authors should be done to satisfy the attribution requirements. Be also aware that Wikipedia is subject to hacks. That is why information should be verified with other sources, because it could contain both malicious and comical details. The use of sources from government sites or government copyright materials like textbooks. Next, know that there isn't an urgency exemption. No matter how desperate the situation or noble your intentions would be, don't distribute a copy of the entire source or even an entire page from a textbook. Always abide with the fair use doctrine. Avoid copying and distributing creative material like novels, plays, movies, and poems are far more likely to be exempt from fair use. Use published sources. Never copy and distribute unpublished materials. Then, when in doubt, reach out. Reach out to the author, the co-author, or publishing company and ask permission if you wish to use the material for any purpose. Now, how are you going to acknowledge the sources of information? Include references or include the authors or the copyright holders in your reference list or bibliography. In video lessons, you can acknowledge your resources at the end of the video clip through the acknowledgement. Now, the acronym task can help you remember how to acknowledge or give credits to the authors. Remember the acronym task. T stands for title of the image or material. A for author or creator of the image or material, and S, you include the source of the image or material, where it is from, include a link if possible so others can find it. Don't forget also to include in your acknowledgement the people behind the creation of your video lesson. This is your way of expressing your gratitude and careful thought to all those who have helped you carry out your work. Example, the Pangasinan 2 Division personnel from SDS, ASTS, the CID Chief, and the EPS in charge. In MAPEH, we have Dr. Lilibeth A. Daos, the production staff, the scriptwriter, the videographer, makeup artists, the researchers, writers, and the like. All of them will be acknowledged as part of the creation of the derivative work, and all the rights in the video lesson is reserved starting 2021. Now, before I'll end my discussion, I would like to remind you again, fellow educators, that the use of any intellectual property bears a social. That's why when it comes to copyright law and the application of fair use exemptions, ignorance is definitely not a bliss. So the rule of the thumb is, when in doubt, ask permission. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and healthy, because all of us deserve to be healthy and safe. Good day to everyone.